Welcome to She Speaks. We're bringing you another exciting episode today with our accomplished guest, Heidi Scheer. She was just crowned in July Miss Worldwide 2021, and we're excited today to bring her and to present to you her life story as a mother, as an accomplished businesswoman, and as an advocate in the world of autism. And so, Heidi, welcome onto the show today.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you today and to hear your story. Heidi, you and I have had many conversations together, and one of the reasons that I truly feel a heart connection with you is because you're such a real woman. And we discussed bringing your story of just being a godly woman who has a beautiful heart for others, who finds themselves doing extraordinary things for God and just in life. And so I'm really excited to hear you bring out that side of your story today.
Thank you. Yes, one of the things that I really enjoy speaking about is the fact that anyone can do this. Anyone can compete in a pageant. There's nothing special about me. I don't look like this all the time. Michelle, you and I have talked about this many times. 8 times out of 10, I am in a ponytail with no makeup and sweatpants, and I am running my kids around. I'm running errands and cleaning the house and doing laundry just like everyone else. And I had kind of a significant change in my life when I lost a lot of weight. That's another thing that a lot of people don't know about me. I grew up very overweight. My parents were divorced when I was age 6, and I kind of turned to food for my security and my comfort. So by the time I was in middle school, I weighed 204 pounds. And that is something that a lot of people don't know about me. And my weight has been a struggle my entire life. I'm constantly renewing my workout plans and constantly researching on what is the best way for me to take care of myself and to be healthy and to do it in a healthy way. I don't believe in, fad diets, crash diets. I believe in nutrition, healthy nutrition, which is something that I really had to take control over when my son was diagnosed with autism, because nutrition was a big part of his healing. So luckily I had that past experience with myself of losing weight and learning a lot about nutrition and what foods work for my body. That's another thing, depending on your blood type, depending on your physique, depending on your age. When we hit over 40, there's a lot of different foods that that we're going to want to look into, which is what I did. In the last year, I was following a lady that had a program that was geared towards women over 40, women going into menopause. And she really helped me with bringing the inflammation down in my body, which if you bring your inflammation down, it's going to help you lose weight. When you eat superfoods like avocados and spirulina and goji berries and, spinach smoothies, it's really going to help you kind of detox your body, which will help you get rid of some of the extra pounds that we're trying to get rid of. And I always tell women, try to take the long road. You want to do this slowly. Because the quicker you lose it, the quicker it's going to come back on. So slow and steady always wins the race. So the sooner that you can learn about nutrition, the better. When I was growing up, not only was I eating a lot of garbage, but I was also not eating breakfast, and I was eating late at night. So times of the day that you're eating is also crucial. How many times a day you're eating is crucial. So there's many different things, but just like in the world of autism, in the world of weight loss, you have to find out what works for you, because what might work for me may not work for you. And I've seen that time and time again. So you really need to just dig in deep to yourself and be honest with yourself, your body type, your blood type, your chemistry, and really research. It's all about research and finding out what works good for you. So, to step ahead, it took me until I graduated high school to kind of figure out that I wasn't just a big girl. Like everyone told me, oh, Heidi, you're just a big girl. of course, I'm built muscular. I have muscular thighs, muscular legs. This is just part of my DNA. So I thought, oh, well, maybe they're right. Maybe I'm just big. But then when I graduated high school, I went to visit my cousin who I hadn't seen in about 14 years. And she was built like I was. She had my mom's side, the sick Harris genes, and she had lost a lot of weight. And I looked at her and I said, well, if she can do it, I can do it. Maybe I'm not just a big girl. Maybe there's a little girl inside of here. So that is when my health and fitness journey began. And like I said, I just started researching and started working out and started eating. It was the opposite. I didn't start not eating. I started eating, but I started eating the right foods and more times throughout the day, which helped me to eventually lose 75 pounds and then enter my first pageant.
What an amazing story. I cannot wait to dig in more. So, really, what you're doing is starting us off from the very beginning of your story, which is here I am. I'm Heidi. This was my struggle. And so, what you see today comes with the journey and a process.
Yes.
So, what a perfect opening to your story, Heidi. And it makes me want to just dig into the fun that us women want to hear about. Like, tell us about pageants. How in the world are you Miss Worldwide 2021? Take us on this journey of what it means to be Miss Worldwide. And did you just start there, or take us on the back journey?
Sure. Well, starting way back when I was, let's see, how old was I? I was 22. I started my first pageant. So that's really where it began. And I really do have to go back there because the lessons I learned throughout my pageant experience as a miss before I was married really prepared me for moving into the Mrs. category after I was married and had children. So I started with this title. There's 3 levels. So I started out being crowned Mrs. Michigan Worldwide, Mrs. Michigan USA Worldwide, and then I was fortunate enough to go on and win the Mrs. USA Worldwide 2 years ago. And then, of course, we weren't able to have a in-person event last year. So this year we were able to meet again, and I moved on to the international competition, which is Mrs. Worldwide. And the Worldwide USA pageant system is very unique in that it is a platform-based system. And those are the only type of pageants that I do. And a lot of people are unaware that there's so many different pageants. They think that there's one Miss Michigan. They think that there's one Mrs. Michigan. And there are several. There are so many different systems. There's our system, which is the USA Worldwide, and there's many others. I could probably name 10 different Mrs. Michigan titles. They're just all different organizations because it's a business and it's a competition, just like sports or dance or anything else that you're going to compete in. There are different organizations that represent different titles, and they all stand for something a little bit different. And the Mrs. Worldwide USA system stands for integrity, inspiration, and beauty. And it's all about your platform. Our score is comprised of 25% evening gown, 25% fitness wear, and 50% is on your personal interview, your one-on-one interview with each judge, as well as your on-stage interview during the live pageant. So 50% of your score is based on your platform. All of your questions, your on-stage questions, your personal questions, your specific bio sheet that you have to fill out and create for the judges, all about your platform. It's all based on your cause that you are passionate about. And mine is treating the puzzle of autism. So when I was searching for a pageant and I stumbled upon the worldwide system, I thought this is the system for me because they are 100% about, bringing to light the platforms of these women from around the world that are so passionate about creating change and really serving others in their communities and having a cause that they champion and that they are so passionate about. So that was my kind of journey that brought me to this title that I was lucky enough to win a couple weeks ago in Omaha.
Thank you for sharing, those pieces of your journey. And I just want to share for our audience that I have the pleasure of knowing you and meeting you. Actually, even a little bit before I met you within the She Speaks and She Leads group. And the one thing I can say about you, Heidi, is that you have an incredible heart. And I think that stood out most to me about you. And as I watched other women in other pageants and other winners around you, your heart and your love for the Lord and your love for people really, really stands out. And so I think that's so important for us to share with our audience. And
Thank you.
also, for me, it's a part of your story that is so important for us to share with other women, that we can steward our hearts and our love for God as we walk out big callings, as we accomplish something big, like being crowned Mrs. Worldwide 2021. I think
Yes.
that's an incredible accomplishment. And so I just want to honor you for how you have stewarded your heart and your love for God.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And I would like to share something that happened because I really, as I told you before, I really felt God walking every step of the way with me along this journey. And I was in prayer all the time and just trusting. And this is something that is often said, and it's so often said that it becomes cliche. When it's your time to win, it's your time to win. And we all have heard it a million times. But it's something that you really don't understand until it happens in a way that it happened to me this year. I can say with 100% confidence that the Lord told me this was my time. There were many things that happened that in the past may have flustered me, or just may have put a wrench in my in my plan. However, everything that happened, it didn't even phase me. I just knew that God was going to work it out. And so I'll tell you one of the things that happened. We prepare far in advance for these events, right? I started designing my gown 6 months before the pageant. I met with my designer 4 months before my pageant, and he's an amazing designer. He's designed 3 gowns for me in the past, and I'm just going to make a long story short and just say that the gown arrived a couple weeks before the pageant, and I couldn't wear it. So 2 weeks before the pageant, I didn't have an evening gown, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to figure this out. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell my husband. I didn't tell my best friends. I just thought, okay, I will figure this out. I just had peace about it, which was very strange because it should have been a very ruffling of my feathers. However, I just knew it was going to work out. And about a week prior to this, I was searching Facebook, and there's a lady that I follow that, she owns a boutique in Florida, and she posted a gown that I loved. It was just so beautiful. And I actually messaged my friend Dahlia, who does my wardrobe, and I asked her if she could get it for me. And she was out of town that night, so she didn't get back to me. Well, the night that I received my evening gown and realized I couldn't wear it, I saw a friend of mine who had the very same gown that she had worn and won a pageant in, and she was selling it, and it was my size, and she was my height, and it was for sale. I was just floored. And she had custom earrings already made to go with it as well by the same earring designer that I am an ambassador for. So I received the gown 2 days before I left. The front of it had to be turned under a little bit because she wore a little bit higher heels than I did. I couldn't find anybody to do it overnight, but then I realized, oh my gosh, I have a friend that's in Fashion Group International with me, and she's a phenomenal clothing designer. So I called her up and I said, Mila, can you do this overnight? And she said, bring it to me right now. I don't know, but bring it to me. I'll look at it, because it had a horsehair trim and it was pretty, intricate detail on the gown. And she said, leave it with me. I'm going to see what I can do. I said, okay, I'll pick it up in the middle of the night. I'll do whatever has to be done. So she sent me a video that night about 11:30, and she was hand stitching and she was working on it. And I literally picked it up on the day of traveling to Omaha to the pageant. I didn't even try it on. I just took it, put it with my things, and I was in the car on the way to the airport. So when I arrived in Omaha, everybody was going out to dinner, and I said, just give me 10 minutes. I need to try on my gown and see if it fits, see if the length is correct. I had brought an extra pair of shoes just in case, and it was perfect. It was perfect. Now, if that's not the Lord telling you that He's right by your side, I don't know what is. The fact that I had no gown, literally a week before the pageant. I received a gown 2 days before the pageant. It looked like it was made for me. I picked it up on the way to the airport, and I won overall evening gown and received perfect scores in my evening gown from every single judge. Like, I mean, I get emotional just thinking about it because that never happens.
Heidi, I think it's an absolutely incredible story. And I love everything. I was over here tearing up as well because I think it's so important that we just talk about how much God is in every single detail of our lives.
Yes.
And maybe somebody would look at this situation and say, well, why would a pageant matter? But a pageant does matter, first and foremost, because it's what's important to you and to your heart. And because of the platform that you have to begin to speak about the things that God has done in your life and in the life of your family. And so I am so thankful that you shared that story. And I can't believe it. And you know what's so funny to me? I'll just personalize this for a moment. I remember us talking about the pageant coming up, and I remember when I looked at your pictures, I thought that's not the color of dress she told me she was going to wear.
Right.
I had no idea about the backstory, but it's such a beautiful thing when we really truly understand our place with God and we know that He takes care of us, even in the smallest details that mean the world to us. So, thank you for sharing that part of your story with us, Heidi. It's incredible. And again, for me, the most important part of what we're sharing today is showing this extraordinary journey that you've been on in life, and yet that you're such an ordinary woman. And I wonder if, to that point, there's anything that you would want to say to our listeners today about where they're at in their own journeys or in the vision or the dreams that they have for their own lives.
Well, I think that the first thing that you need to realize is that you can do anything you put your
Mm.
mind to. You can accomplish anything. And I was on the stage with women from all over the world, all over the United States. We all had different backgrounds. Some of us were moms, some of us were dog moms, some of us were business owners, all different types of backgrounds. But we were all united in that we all had a cause that we were passionate about. Didn't matter what size we were, how tall we were, what color hair I was, what our wardrobe looked like. In the worldwide system, you all arrive on equal playing ground. So that's another reason why I chose this system is they really celebrate the woman and who she is as an individual without trying to put her into a box or, there's no certain type of winner. You can be any size or shape or, come from any type of background and you don't need any experience. You can learn as you go. And there's a lot of coaches out there too that will help you. I know some women are like, oh my gosh, I can't even, walk in high heels. Well, there's people that can help you learn how to do that. And some of the women literally do pageants because it helps them to build their self-confidence. There's a lot of women that I have personally met and that I'm very good friends with that really aren't interested in winning the crown. They want a sisterhood of women that they can get together with, that they know they have their back and that they can relate to, and that they realize that we're all just women. We all have like I said, we all do our laundry and vacuum back home in our sweatpants. But we all like to also be with women that want to make a difference in their communities and like the thrill of pageantry and like to be maybe your goal is just being able to learn how to walk across the stage in front of people. Maybe your goal, like my very best friend, her goal when starting out was just to be able to get through saying her name on stage. Like she had
Mm.
such an intense um, fear, intense fear of public speaking and be in front of an audience. She said, "This is all I want. I just want to be able to go up there and say my name and state without falling apart." And she did it. We worked on it. I helped her with it, and she got through it. So I think that, another thing that women in pageantry have in common is they all have goals, and they're not the same goals. They're all so very different. And, I mean, the bottom line is, if you've thought about doing a pageant, if you've thought about, oh, wow, that might be fun just to get together with a lot of women that have the same type of, it's the same outlook and the same kind of mission. However, we're all very, very different too. And we appreciate how we are all so different. So I think my biggest word of advice is to go for it. I meet so many women. I can't even tell you. I do appearances, as you know, all over the world. And I have met so many women that have said, yeah, I always wanted to do a pageant,
Yeah.
but I never did. And like you said, some people think that, why would you ever do a pageant? Well, there's so much personal growth and self development in finding out who you are and finding out how you can give back to others. That's another thing. A lot of women think, well, I don't have time to volunteer and I don't have time to do that. But when you start meeting people that do it, you realize there is a way. There's a way that you can fit things into your schedule. It doesn't take a whole lot of effort. I'm running in 10 different directions and I figure out how to do it. If I can do it, anybody can do it. And I was even doing it when I had, when I was going through Gannon's most what do I want to say, time consuming protocols that were every hour, every 2 hours, things like that. I found a way to make it happen. It doesn't take a lot of time to volunteer or to make a difference in the life of somebody else. And that's something that you can get through pageantry because you're surrounded by women who are doing that and they can help you with that journey. So I also think that if you want to help somebody and if you want to change somebody's life, of course you can do it any day of the week. However, pageantry has opened up my world to a lot more families that I've been able to impact their children's lives because I did a pageant. I would have never met those women if I had not competed. For instance, is when I did a pageant in Chicago, and a gal from Australia. We had several talks throughout the pageant, and she came up to me the last day of the show, and she grabbed my arm. I'll never forget it. We were walking across to the auditorium, and she said, "I know why I'm here now." She said, I'm not here for the crown. I was here to meet you because you're gonna help me save my son.
Wow.
That's why I compete. That's why I will never, ever, even when I stop competing, I will still be involved in pageantry because
Yes.
it has brought me to so many families, and that's through the Lord. I give that all to God. That has nothing to do with me. The Lord has brought me those women to personally connect with so that I can share my message of hope so that I can help their children to have a more healthy and happy life.
You have such an amazing story of hope too. And in just a moment, we're going to get to that story. But I love the meat of what you just shared, Heidi, because it just begins to open our eyes up more to what's happening behind the pageants. I would even say boldly or vulnerably, I didn't always understand pageants,
Yes.
and what that was about because I didn't have exposure in my life to
Right.
thinking that I would ever be in a pageant. But to hear that backstory of how there's community that's built and diversity within community and
Yes.
then identity within that community and then just the support and love that's there when in society we can often stereotype individuals who want to be a part of pageants, but to know that it can be a place of love and support and development is so eye-opening. Thank you for sharing that facet or lens of the pageants. That
Yes.
gets me excited and it makes me want to say, okay, Heidi, like time to open up your own consulting business and bring women in and get them trained and yes, and keep
Right.
repeating.
Right. That's in the pipeline, right?
Yes.
Helping women
Yeah,
achieve their goals and dreams in pageantry. Yes. I think
I
that's
love
maybe the
that.
next step for Heidi Scheer.
Yes, I love it, Heidi. We're on it. So, what I'd like to do is just take a little moment because as I was just thinking about your story of hope and the platform for which your pageant is based, I also wanted to play the song You Say I Am Loved because it reminds me really of what we're going to talk about next, which is really truly the love of God and in your life, in the life of your family, and the unfolding of your story of hope. And also what we're talking about today as women, when we find our identity and we walk in that identity, the identity of knowing that we're loved and all those other things don't matter. When we have an understanding of our identity and how much we are truly loved, it launches us as women into understanding that anything we want to accomplish is possible with the right heart in the right position. So let's move into the song You Say I Am Loved, sang by Rachel Doring and Unite Community Music.
I keep fighting voices in my mind that say I'm not enough. Every single lie that tells me I will never measure up. Am I more than just the sum of every high and every low? Remind me once again just who I am, because I need to know. Ooh, you say I am loved when I don't feel a thing. You say I am strong when I think I am weak. You say I am held when I am falling short, and when I don't belong, oh, you say I am yours. And I believe, oh, I believe what you say of me. Oh, I believe the only thing that matters now is everything you think of me. In you I find my worth, in you I find my identity. Ooh, you say I'm loved when I don't feel a thing. You say I'm strong when I think I am weak. And you say I'm held when I am falling short, when I don't belong. Oh, you say I'm yours. And I believe, oh, I believe what you say of me. Hey, I believe. Taking all I have and now I'm laying it at your feet. You have every failure, God. You have every victory. Ooh, you say I am loved when I don't feel a thing. You say I am strong when I think I am weak. And you say I am held when I am falling short, when I don't belong. Oh, you say I am yours. And I believe,
Wow. Heidi, I'm just having to pull myself together here for a moment because I'm thinking about the heart of your platform as we were listening to that song, and really your heart. Um, for our guest, you have been even a wonderful connection for my children who absolutely love you. And they love you because of your gentle spirit and because of your heart for children. And that leads us into talking about your platform, the platform that you hold for your pageant, which is really to advocate for the treatment of children with autism. Heidi, will you share with us a little bit of your journey on how that became the platform for Mrs. Worldwide 2021?
Yes. Well, it wasn't my decision. As you know, life sometimes brings us situations and circumstances that we don't understand at the time. However, we can always utilize them to help others. There's always a light at the end of the storm. I say, there were times when I didn't know if I would make it to the next day. I'm going to be completely honest. There were weeks that I went out, without showering and without getting out of my sweatpants because I was just so focused on helping my son. And when he was born completely neurotypical, great scores on his APGAR test, and beautiful, healthy baby boy, babbling at, 1 year of age, starting to sing his ABCs at 15 months old. And then everything stopped and he lost his voice and he stopped responding to his name being called. We thought he was losing his hearing. We had his hearing checked, and that, checked out to be fine, which this is the case in a lot of stories that I hear. Mm-hmm. And he was slowly just moving into his own world and not communicating with really anyone. I would take him to like little toddler classes, and he would always be off in the corner, not really interacting with any of the other children, and not even interacting with toys like he should, not even playing with toys as he should. And he was very obsessed with the color blue and elephants. That was it. And if you tried to give him a pink cup instead of a blue cup, well, you better look out because that cup was coming at you. So we were just searching. Our pediatrician really didn't have any answers for us. And so we took him to the school system and had him evaluated because we thought there's something not right. He's still not speaking sentences. He has very little language, and he's 2 years old now. What do we do? So we took him to be evaluated, and they labeled him as speech and language impaired and said, you need to get him into early childhood program. So we did that, of course. And then that's where the behaviors really started coming out, the biting and pushing down and yelling out and, throwing chairs. And it really became such a stressful situation. However, I knew that there was something that we could do to help him. I knew in my heart that there was a way that I could help him. And I'm going to say this right now because I think if any educator is watching this, please listen to me and say the biggest and most meaningful gift that you can give to a parent is letting them know it's going to be okay and not calling them for every little thing that happens in that classroom. That creates so much stress for parents. And I was experiencing that myself, through his different classrooms that he was in the beginning, his first 3 years, and trying to find a classroom that would work for him. And
Heidi, if I can interrupt you, it makes me think about, so really you're talking about the process of finding out that your son was being diagnosed with autism. Yes. And, as I've worked in the school system and we see more and more children being diagnosed with autism, a lot of times there are many teachers who still, or other professionals and parents who still aren't even aware of what those symptoms are. And so they're struggling along that journey with you. And also I wanted to say, that evaluation process, it really can be so helpful to so many families who don't understand what's happening with their children, but they're needing additional support because of that level of frustration.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So he's in the early childhood program now, and he's in the classroom, and I'm getting calls all the time. Oh, Gannon did this, Gannon did that. And it came to be where if the phone rang, I had such anxiety because I was afraid it was going to be that teacher calling me. And I realize if serious things happen, of course I want to be called, but I will tell you that 9 out of the 10 phone calls I received did not need to be made. I will tell you that because I learned later from a teacher who was our angel that I did not need to be called every single day. We were still trying to figure out what was going on because Gannon hadn't been diagnosed as of yet. We thought he was speech and language impaired. But through that early childhood program, it was a speech and language pathologist that called me, and she worked in an autism classroom, and she said, I think Gannon is on the spectrum. You need to have him evaluated. So that was on a Friday afternoon, and I literally got on the computer and stayed there for 3 days trying to figure out what to do. I got on the waiting list for 2 physicians, and I also found a health site that was talking all about gluten sensitivities and casein sensitivities with children with autism. And I thought, it really just kind of jumped out at me because my husband's sister was just diagnosed with celiac disease. And she told me that when she had to be tested, actually, she had to go back and eat gluten before the test. And she never realized it brought back all the memories of when she was growing up. She never realized how sick she felt all the time because that was her life. That was her daily life. Norm. But when she had to go back and eat it for this test, because she had taken it out of her diet for about probably 10 years prior to that, she became lethargic. She became very she said, I had brain fog. I was actually in a meeting, she said, and I had to excuse myself and I went home for the day. And I thought, what if my son is going through that and he doesn't have the language to express that to me? Can you imagine the frustration of feeling so sick and you can't tell your parents what's going on? You can't say, my tummy feels like it's on fire and it's going to explode. You can't tell me your head is pounding. I just can't imagine. So I thought, wow, like I said, it jumped off the page to me. So I thought, you know what, this is something that I can do right now. We can try it. It's not going to hurt anybody. If anything, we'll all become healthier. So I threw everything out of the pantry because I didn't want him to feel by himself. I didn't want him to feel alone. So I said, okay, we're all doing this. The family's going gluten-free.
So were you thinking at that time that maybe what was happening was a result of the gluten, or this could reduce the symptoms?
I thought both. But this is what I'll tell you. This is where the Lord came in as well. And this is amazing. So a couple weeks prior to this, Gannon had a horrible week in school. I mean, it was horrible. Well, the week before that, I'm driving down the road and I drive by a bakery, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to stop in there and get some nice fresh bread, right? Some nice fresh whole wheat bread, no preservatives.
Yeah.
And I brought it home that week, and Gannon really never ate sandwiches up to that point. Well, that week he wanted sandwiches every day. Now I know, looking back, God was telling me, this is where you need to go, Heidi. Gannon ate sandwiches every day that week. So you can imagine, after 5, 6, 7 days of eating that gluten once, twice a day, every day, that is why he was so hysterical and so full of anxiety and running. He was a runner. We never went anywhere because I would have had to keep him on, I would have had to have him on a leash, and I was not going to do that. So we never went anywhere. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is God. God literally brought me his body, the bread, the bread, the body of Christ showed me the way with my son. And I thought, this is what we need to do. I just knew in my heart. So I called the teacher on Monday and I said, no gluten. You need to let me know if there's a birthday party or any special occasion. you have to send out a letter to all the parents saying that you need a week's notice if there's going to be any food sent to the classroom so that I can provide a gluten-free version for my son. She said, okay. She said, I will comply, but I just need to let you know that there's no scientific proof that this will do anything. And I said, you know what, that's okay. I just read, a couple hundred testimonials that it helped their child with autism. So we're going to try it. It won't hurt. And I think we should just give it a try. And I was also told, although there can be many food sensitivities, which are different, of course, than a food allergy, a food sensitivity is what, they can cause, your brain fog and your anxiety and your different behaviors. Your body just doesn't have the enzymes to break down those food. It's completely different than having a food allergy, which can cause a rash or anaphylaxis or something like that. So what you need to do is just do one at a time, because if you remove everything at once, you have no idea what the culprit is. So I decided to start with gluten because of the bread. I was like, it's got to be the gluten. It's got to be the gluten. So we removed it, and I read a lot, and it said you have to do it 100%. Like, you have to read all your labels. You have to, I didn't know there were things that had it, like ketchup had it in it, and there were, soy sauce had it in it, and a lot of other things that you wouldn't think of. So I really had to research and ask questions and read labels. Is there gluten in there? And I thought, okay, you have to do it at least 100% with no infractions for 3 months, at least, just to see if you're going to get, some relief. Sometimes even longer. Well, we were really lucky that we had a response after 3 weeks.
Wow.
And after 3 weeks, he spoke his first sentence. And it was a moment that I will never forget ever in my life. As parents, all we want to hear is that our children love us and they know that we love them. And we were down on the floor, kind of wrestling. And I just said, I love you, Gannon. And he stopped. And it was as if he was in slow motion. And by this time now, he's almost 4 years old, and he's still not speaking a sentence. And he turned his head in slow motion, and it was as if he heard me for the first time in his whole life.
Wow.
And he said, I love you too, Mommy. And
wow, Heidi.
I knew that we were on the right. I said, thank you, Jesus. Like, thank you. I know that we are on the right path.
Yes.
You've opened up all these doors, and we've gone through some of them. They weren't for us, but then we've walked through other ones, and the answer was right on the other side, and you showed us the way to get there. And I know that we can do this. I know that we are going to change his life for the better, and we just can never give up. So from then on, I started going to conferences all around the country, and I started learning from physicians and parents. It's so crucial that as a parent, you get up and share your story, because that is how you are going to help others. You've walked the road before them. You need to share your story, because if we're silent, which many parents are, because they don't want to get out there and say the A word, autism, and a lot of parents are in denial or they're embarrassed. I meet parents every day, all the time, that tell me that they kind of hide their children. They don't want to, they don't want their people that come over to their house to see them. They don't want their neighbors to see them. You have to celebrate your child wherever they are at, because regardless of how severe they are, or how they're affected by autism or any other disability, they all have special gifts, and they're all beautiful children of God. And you need to let them know that they are loved exactly where they are. But what we're doing is just to help you improve your life, because everybody, I don't care who you are, if you have a disability or not, we all need to improve on ourselves every single day. There's always room for improvement. No one's perfect. So I think that in itself kind of relieves tension in a home, because I've seen parents that are so nervous about their children, and when they release that and just tell the child, I love you regardless of, I love you for you, and let's just try to do some things to help you out, you will start healing. And when you start sharing your story with others, you will also experience even a greater healing. That was my experience. And you also have to connect with a parent that can share your specific story, because children with autism are so different. So different. What helped my child might hurt another. That's the honest That's honest to God truth. A protocol that we did was very detrimental to some kids that I know personally, but it was tremendously healing for my son. So it took me going to a conference and hearing a mother who had the courage to get on stage and share her story. And I thought, oh, wow, her son is so similar to Gannon. And there was a protocol that was kind of sitting on my shoulder that I was kind of nervous about doing, and she did it, and she had the guts to get up on stage and talk about it. So I followed her right after she went off that stage, and I followed her until
I
she
love it.
took the time to talk to me. And as she shared her story, I knew that specific protocol was the next one that we needed to do for Gannon, and that brought tremendous healing to him as well.
Wow. So really what you're saying, and I'm comprehending what you're saying, even from my lens of working with a lot of families who have children with autism and often feel so stuck because I guess even when you were referencing the fear that parents might have, I even think about when you don't know and you're so overwhelmed with just a diagnosis in itself, then the thought of digging in and maybe questioning what you've been told. I think you were told Gannon would never speak, and questioning like if this is the diagnosis, like can I help him? Can the diagnosis get better? And so to understand that maybe if I'm monitoring the food choices, that will alleviate the anxiety that Gannon is feeling. And so then it would allow him to have more language development, etc. I'm just processing what you're sharing and thinking really what you're speaking to parents is there are options even within the diagnosis to bring even better life quality, right?
Yes.
But it wasn't an easy journey for you.
No, it wasn't. It was very exhausting, mentally, emotionally, physically, and financially. It was depleting in all those areas at times. But that's where faith gets you through. You have to just look to the Lord, even in times of severe struggles when you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I just had to keep the faith and keep praying. And when I would learn about a new protocol, I would bring it to my church. I started bringing it to the church and having the prayer warriors pray over it, because a lot of the protocols that we did were kind of 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So you had regression and you couldn't give up during those regressions. You had to learn to kind of push through and just know that you had to be educated enough to know what to expect and to know that that was okay to have a little step back, because that was going to bring you 2 steps forward. I think that is key. And also parents have to realize that all the therapy in the world, we've had some of the most incredible therapists. We had 2 women come into the house. We had a speech and language pathologist coming to the house. We had a relationship development I don't know, something, RDI specialist. I don't even know what it stands for anymore.
Interventionist, yeah.
Yeah. We had her coming to the house. We had a special ed teacher coming to the house at one point. We were doing, of course, speech therapy and OT, and we were doing so many therapies. However, if your child is physically ill and is having digestive issues, which a large percent of children on the spectrum have digestion issues.
Yes.
I've talked to thousands of families, over the last 10 years while I've been traveling, and a lot of them have digestive issues. So you can.
And I've worked with many families, and a lot of children have digestive issues. And I've always watched that pattern with children, especially when we would see an increase in what we want to identify as behaviors or anxiety. There was often a correlation with an upset digestive process.
Right. So you can spend your life savings on therapies, but if your child is ill, they are not going to get the full benefit of those therapies, because you cannot teach a child who is in pain. You just can't. So you need to address their physical needs first while you're doing the therapies, because otherwise I just think many times, and I've seen this many, many times, it becomes even more frustrating because the child is not going to benefit hardly at all from a lot of those therapies if they are physically ill.
So Heidi, essentially what you're saying is you took a holistic view of treatment for Gannon. Is that correct?
That is 100% correct. We took the road less traveled. We didn't take the modern medicine route. We had a lot of, I mean, we did have MDs, a lot of MDs along the way, but those MDs, most of them had children who had been diagnosed with autism, which forced them to look in other directions. In the holistic route, we had a couple of amazing homeopaths and naturopaths and chiropractors and scientists and you know, just people that were very educated in helping children with autism. And it's a completely different ballgame when you're talking about children with autism. It's not your, you know, it's not your typical case that a lot of what do I want to say, classically trained physicians can help you with. That was our experience.
Sure. So as our time comes to a close today, you know, I'm thinking about this incredible story you have from being this young girl who's struggling with her weight to, you know, stepping into pageant world and then having a son who's diagnosed with autism and trying to figure out the best approach and support and not being willing just to accept what you're hearing, but to dig in and understand how to treat him holistically, and how you've bridged all of that with a heart for God and letting him be a part of every step of your process. But to me, the most important part of your story above all of that is the story of Gannon now. And if you would share with us, you know, him now and this snapshot of why it is that you do what you do and that you share the good news that you have.
Yes, because he's a miracle. He is a walking, living, breathing miracle. As you said, we were told he may never speak a sentence. He may never be educated in a general education classroom. He may never tell us that he loves us. And in high school, he actually competed in public speaking, and he had name roles in the high school musicals. He competed in choir, and he graduated with honors, and he just finished his first year of college away from us. He goes to Huntington University in Indiana, and he finished up on the dean's list. And that is a true miracle, and that was brought to us by our faith. Hard work, of course, and determination and never giving up. But that's the story that anyone listening to this can have. That's my message of hope. It's our family's message of hope. We never gave up. And the little boy that was never supposed to be able to speak went on to compete in public speaking and is now thriving away at college. And that is truly a miracle.
It's such an incredible story that you have and that you've shared with us today. Heidi, thank you so much for sharing that story, and not just with us, but with every person that has heard your platform as Mrs. Worldwide, and for every parent that you've run into, and every physician and every teacher along Gannon's journey. That you,
I just want to say one thing before I just want to interrupt, because teachers, I can't stress this enough. We had a couple incredible teachers that literally changed Gannon's life. And and you have to knock on doors. I had to go through, you know, the head of special ed, and then I couldn't get the door answered there, so I had to go to the superintendent, and you have to be proactive and get it done. I was able to get him into the right classroom finally when he was 6 years old, and we met our angel Lisa Ellis, who was his teacher, and she challenged him. She didn't call me on the phone every day. And you know what she said to me when I sat down the first day when I dropped him off? She looked at me, and I'll never forget this. She said, "Heidi, this is temporary. He's going to be okay."
Wow.
That was such
a gift.
Incredible gift after having all of these teachers calling him all the time, and the world's going to end and he's doing all this stuff. That changed my life, and it changed Gannon's life. So if you're a teacher, please, please remember, you can really change a child's life just by giving hope to the parent and the child. It makes a world of difference.
It does. Hope is such a powerful, powerful tool in our basket. It's a gift from God. And you're right. When you feel discouraged and stuck, especially as a parent trying to navigate the world of autism. What an incredible gift. Really, she spoke into you.
She
And
did.
yeah. And I just love, I mean, I've heard you share the story of Gannon over and over. And every time we get to this part of it, I get so excited. And I think because I think about him and I think about you and now I love your family, but I also think about every other child and parent that I've worked with. And so sometimes I sit in school meetings with parents and I'll share with them a little bit of your story, Heidi. And so your platform is powerful and being utilized even when you don't know it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you
Yes.
for doing that. We need that.
Yeah,
We need that.
We do. And so, Heidi, in closing today, I want to thank you for coming on She Speaks. I want to thank you for sharing in vulnerability, just your story of being a real woman with some extraordinary accomplishments that are exciting. I want to thank you for being a woman with a heart of God and just a kind person everywhere that you go, that your platform, it hasn't changed who you are. It's only given you a bigger heart for those around you. And as you were sharing Gannon's story, I felt like I wanted to close out in just saying a prayer over families who may be listening to this. I just really felt like I heard the Lord say, it's in the power of our testimony that healing can come too. And so if you'd like to join me, you're welcome to. I'll say a quick prayer. If you want to add on, you can, because I really felt there was an anointing, a covering over your story, and that the Lord is beginning to bring more authority into your platform to bring healing into more families. And then as we close, if there's one last bit of advice that you would want to give to any of our listeners today, please feel free to do that.
Thank you.
So, Father, we just speak over every listener to this program today and every family who has a child who is struggling with this diagnosis of autism. We speak to their neurons, we speak to neural pathways. Lord, we speak the replication of the testimony of Gannon into each child's life, and we speak the replication of the testimony of Heidi and her husband, that there are hope for parents who are struggling and feeling discouraged, and that there is hope for families, that we never accept the worst of the worst in diagnosis, but we see the ultimate outcome of healing and the miraculous that only you can bring. Yes.
Amen.
Yes. Thank you, Father.
Yes, in your son's most holiest name, thank you so much. And keep the faith and never let anybody tell you what your child can't do. You need to look them in the eyes and fight, because your child is counting on you and you can make a difference no matter how big or small. Any type of improvement is going to be worth every moment that you put into this. Because our child, they're the future. They're our greatest gifts from God. So you can do this. You take charge, you advocate, and you will help your child recover, or maybe just improve, or live a healthier life, and ask God to walk with you every step of the way.
Thank you, Heidi. Thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for being a world changer.
Thank you for having me. I truly appreciate it.
Yes.